Hi there, I'm Dr. Kelly Clarke, and I wanted to talk to you today about how do you know your friends are really your friends? Or I was just thinking about this the other day with a friend of mine. I think all of us have friends, or a lot of us do have friends. Some of us, sadly and unfortunately, may not have a lot of friends. And, I'm reminded of a proverb that I read one time that to have friends, you need to be a friend. And I thought that was pretty powerful. It makes sense that if we're going to have friends, we need to be a friend. But I also was thinking the other day about, of the friends that I have, there is variance in them. Some of them are fantastic friends. I feel so close to them. And after I leave hanging out with them, I just feel better, about myself, about life, about things, and I think that's true of all of us, right? That I tend to hang around with things and people that make me feel better about myself. I'm not going to play a hobby or sport that I'm terrible at because it doesn't make me feel great about myself. And I tend to hang around with people that make me feel better about myself too. I think that's probably generally true of a lot of people, back to that idea to be a friend or to have friends, you need to be a friend. But I started to think about that some of the friends that I have, I haven't seen for a few years. There seems to be a little more distance. Some are not, initiating contact. And maybe these are friendships that I had at certain times in my life that, the time and that proximity to each other, that placement to each other, helped us to be friends. But now that distance or geographical location is now in place, we're not as much friends before. So it got me thinking about how do we really know if a friend is a friend? And, interestingly, when I do autism assessments, one of the things that we take a look at is questions like this, understanding the depth of a relationship and even what quality the relationship is. What makes a friendship a friendship? What's the difference between somebody I work with and somebody I'm a friend with? What's the difference between somebody I walk home with, say at school, or that I play football with, or go bicycling with, or something like that, and somebody that's actually a more deep friend? What makes that person different, or that relationship different? And so, for people on the spectrum, often they have difficulties naming what qualities make a friend versus just somebody that you're, next to, or in the same classroom with, or working in the same office with. What makes a friend a friend? So I wanted to ask you to think about that for a minute. And when you have friends, noticing also, and I actually wanted us to think about, just sitting with your feelings for a second. Think of those 5 or 10 friends that you have and notice which ones make you feel the most enjoyable, or more, the most happiness, the most contentment, the best about yourself. So just using that question about when you're standing next to this friend versus this friend versus this friend, how do you feel next to them after hanging out with them? Do you notice that, yeah, boy, if I had to rate it out of 10, I feel like a 10 out of 10 around this. My feelings are great. I feel so happy. I feel connected. It feels rewarding, or those kind of things, versus, yeah, that one friend, seems like every time that I'm around them, I just feel less. Kind of don't want to hang around with them as much after I do. And yet we still do. I wanted just to, on almost an implicit level, just to sit with the emotion, imagining spending time with each friend. And do you notice a difference? Even if I were to actually to rate it, I know I'm being very almost kind of scientist about that. Out of 10, 10 being, boy, the best experience I could have with a friend, versus 0. This is the worst scenario. I feel terrible. Don't ever want to see this person. Where would you notice that your friends sit? And I'm hoping that, like me, that hopefully all of us have friends that are around that 10 mark. It just feels great to be around them. So I think there's some things that are just true of us, right? That some of us became friends because of history. We went to school together. We did activities together, just known somebody for so long that we became friends. You have a personal history together. You maybe shared trauma together, those kind of things. And the other thing I wanted to start to think about now, after all of that history, do you actually spend time together? Do you spend time initiating contact, and do they do that back? So some of the things I wanted you to think about is, with the friends you do have, do you feel energized when you're around them? Do you feel invigorated? Do you feel valued? Or do you feel drained? Do you feel beat up? You feel like something's been taken out of you when you're around them. And so back to, I've mentioned before in this kind of videos, we often feel feelings and emotions in a valence, positive emotions, negative emotions. Negative are the feelings like sadness, discouraged, hopeless. And on the positive side, probably most of us can relate happy, joy, these kind of elation, these kind of feelings. So notice that when I'm around my friends, and in particular some of them, does it feel like I'm more on the positive side of emotions or more on the negative side? Can I be myself, or do I have to perform? Do I have to do something for them to sustain the friendship? So another measure, I think, of friendship is reciprocity. The effort goes both ways. The interest goes both ways. We share things, we share values, and we also initiate activities together. I even ask you to ask yourself, do your friends reach out to you? Or is it always you? Or is it always me? Do they follow up, or do they only respond? You send a text message and they may get back to you in 2-3 days or a month or maybe a year. And it's only a response. They're not eliciting more. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Can you tell me more? Or do they even initiate, oh, that's nice to get a text from this person, or a phone call, or they show up at your door, or they drop off at work and come to see you? Are they initiating, following up with things, responding? Do they show up when it matters? I think these are things that are important. Friendship certainly doesn't have to be 50-50. In fact, I think often I've noticed that, in friendship groups, there's usually the kind of initiator, there's somebody that organizes and gets people together, and, some of the people that are less initiators, but, still, is it one-sided over time? I want us to notice, or, to take of these friendships that I have, is it more one-sided for me? Is it a lot one-sided? And I think getting an indication of, if it's very, very one-sided, all the initiation, one needs to ask the question, are they really a friend? Is the mutuality there? Are they only present when it's convenient for them? Are they dismissive of your feelings? Are they competitive instead of supportive? So you clearly get into I make this much money, and my house is this much nicer, and we bought this car, and so it's competitive. It's, there's this almost rivalry rather than this clear interest of who you are and the value you bring into the relationship. Is it inconsistent, hot and cold, these kind of things? So I think just some things to, that clearly on that, when I asked you to think about that top 10 of emotions, you got that one friend that, boy, I just feel 10 around them most of the time. They're just fantastic. So I would almost say that there are some friendships that we not endure, but we still have that are at that lower level, that, yeah, sure, there's some good feelings, 4, 5, 6s in there, but they're clearly not the 10 friend, 10 out of 10 emotion friend. And so some of the things I'm going to get you to notice that there is some friendships just are at a higher level. They're more mature. And I think some of the qualities that are in there are consistency. They show up, even when it's not easy. They're emotionally safe. You can share things with them. You can trust them. You can describe your feelings, and you can be honest without fear. I think those are some of the things. There's mutual effort. Both of you are putting effort into the relationship. Respect for boundaries. There's not a lot of guilt. There's no guilt. There's not this excessive pressure or manipulation, to be a friend or to get you to do things on their agenda. And there's a growth orientation. I think this is important with friendships. They want good things for you and for the relationship. Good friends want to see the relationship grow, have a forward trend, even, there's a big one, even if it doesn't benefit them. I think where we're really getting to strong and more mature friendship is when they are giving, even when it doesn't benefit them. That's getting to a higher level friendship. Because I do think to some degree, relationships are based on a mutual agreement. I'm going to try to meet your needs. You're going to try to meet my needs. But then you see that even more powerfully mature relationship. I'm going to be there for you even when you have no capacity to be there for me. These are really great relationships. And I think some of the qualities are, they can be autonomous. They don't have to have you all the time. They allow you to have other friends. They're really interested in relating to you, connecting to you, and there's mutual respect. It's a great thing when a friend says, you know what, this is something I admire about you. In fact, I think it's probably a good thing for us to do. If you have friends that you're meeting this week, to go and to think about, you know what, some of the things that I think are really amazing about you are, your care, your initiation, their respect. You can listen to a person's opinion without spouting yours off. You can listen without talking, and show respect, even though you totally disagree. It's kind of nice, I think. And I want to encourage you to, if you have these kind of friends, think about maybe sharing some of those things with them. Now, I think a quick, simple check for some of their friendships. If you or they have stopped checking in, they've stopped checking in with you, sending a message, showing up, should discontinue this friendship. If they don't celebrate you, if you clearly can't see that they honor traits about you, that they really applaud features about who you are, or do they just tolerate you? Is that a friendship you should continue? Do you feel secure in the relationship? Boy, this person has got my back. I feel like they really have me, and they have my needs in a special place of friendship. Or is it uncertain and insecure? I just wanted you to think about some of those things. I think it's a good practice, that some of the friendships that we have, why are we continuing on them? If there isn't this mutuality, if there isn't this respect, if there isn't this safety, if there isn't the respect for boundaries, if there's not reciprocal care, respect, and genuine affirmation. Something I was just thinking the other day, as I was reflecting on some of the relationships that I have, that I've even let go, or that others have let go towards me. And I thought, who are the friends that I really can count on? Who are those kind of 10 out of 10 or, 7 out of 9 relationships where I just feel really good about them? And I wanted to encourage you to think about some of those things. And then also to encourage your friends back. To have friends is to be a friend. Thank you for listening. My name is Dr. Kelly Clarke, and you can, for more information, drkellyclarke.com.